Rising floodwaters have forced thousands to evacuate areas of northern New South Wales as ex-tropical cyclone Alfred bears down on the state. And in breaking news, 22 people have been injured in an incident involving two army vehicles in the state's north. We'll have those details in a moment. Despite the cyclone's downgrade earlier this morning, authorities are warning that the emergency is not over. The storm has already brought hundreds of millimetres of rain to both southeast Queensland and northeastern New South Wales. More torrential rain is going to come as the slow-moving system moves inland and weakens before the rain spreads south. There are 126 emergency warnings across northern New South Wales. In the past 24 hours, the state's SES have performed 36 flood rescues. 11,000 people are still under evacuation orders affecting 34 communities across the state. Tonight, we have reporters across the impact zone and our meteorologist, Tom Saunders, will bring us the latest cyclone modelling. But we begin tonight's coverage with Fiona Willan in Lismore.
Returning to that breaking news, more than 20 people have been injured in a crash involving two army vehicles near Lismore. Those people have now been taken to Lismore Base Hospital for treatment. This is the latest incident on flood-affected roads here in northern New South Wales. A short time ago, it has also been confirmed that the body of a 61-year-old man who vanished after his car was swept into floodwaters yesterday has now been found. Across northern New South Wales, the rivers are running and the waters are rising. Alfred's downgrade from a cyclone to a tropical low, not enough to prevent the need for dozens of flood rescues.
Please do not be complacent. At the moment, our crews are out tending to trees down, power lines down, working with the energy companies.
This emergency is not over. The rivers are full. The rain is continuing.
The heaviest rainfall overnight was in Dorrigo. The northern tablelands town has now received more than 750 millimetres over the past 5 days. The body of a 61-year-old man who went missing nearby when his ute was swept into floodwaters has now been found.
His vehicle has entered a flooded bridge and was washed off. This highlights the public messaging: do not enter flooded roads, bridges or causeways.
Other inland towns like Glenray have been cut off. And this is the bridge through Bellingen, where a strike team of paramedics rescued a person who suffered a medical episode in a flood zone. Also here to help, a fleet of specialist drones. These can be used to make life-saving deliveries.
Potentially, if someone's caught in floodwaters, sitting on top of their car, we could potentially fly over to them and drop a life jacket or something like that.
They're also helping rescue crews keep watch over rising rivers. In Lismore today, locals were anxiously eyeing the Wilsons River from the sidelines.
I'm kind of nervous. It's weird to see it that high.
Parts of the town are already underwater, including a school that's been closed since the devastating floods of 2022. But the wild weather didn't stop a new little one from entering the world overnight, while wind and rain battered her parents' home.
We were very aware that she might come through this cyclone, so we nicknamed her as baby Alfie and said that it'll probably take a cyclone for her to make her grand entrance.
Her actual name is tipped to be Billy. The full impact of this weather event is not yet known, but plans are already underway for the recovery stage, which will focus on the so-called 3 Rs: the road network, rubbish removal and resupply.
The lessons that I took out of 2022 will serve us well today, because not only do I know what worked, I know what didn't work.
Work on the recovery is already getting underway. Fiona Willan, ABC News, Lismore. Lismore has been on edge today, the Wilsons River at risk of overtopping after heavy rainfall. Reporter Emma Rennie is at the Lismore levee tonight. Emma, what's the latest on the water levels?
There have been fears here in Lismore that this levee would overtop and water would flow into the CBD, but the Bureau of Meteorology says that risk has diminished. The level of the Wilsons River at the moment is about 9.4 metres and rising. It's expected to exceed the major flood level in the coming hours, but at this stage it's expected to peak around the 10-metre mark, which is below the height of this levee. However, there is more rain rain forecast for the coming days, and that could change the flood projections around the region. Of course, the northern rivers saw record-breaking flooding 3 years ago, and those memories left many residents cautious as the tropical cyclone was approaching this week. Many people used the extra preparation time to move their belongings to higher ground and evacuate themselves and their loved ones, with the memories of just how quickly a river can rise fresh in their mind.
Further down the coast, some rural communities have been cut off as rain from ex-tropical cyclone Alfred bears down. Others are keeping a close eye on river levels. With this report, Sean Tarek Goodman.
Locals in Ballina assess Alfred's long-awaited arrival. Winds slower than expected, but still strong enough to bring down trees and posts. Up the river in Woodburn, the danger was just beginning. Residents ordered to evacuate by midday as the rising Richmond River threatened homes. It's expected to flood overnight, peaking tomorrow morning. Some local farmers kept cool heads.
I'm in a high house up there and it floods nearly every time, so we just waited it out.
Steve Smith helped rescue neighbours in his boat in 2022. He says he's ready to do it again.
Yeah, we're ready. We've got a bigger boat this time too, so yeah.
Pub owner Daniel Simpson opened for a few hours to allow residents to restock.
Many that were here in 2022 have already packed up and gone. They just don't want to take the chance. My wife has said to me, I just can't do this again.
He says he'll be checking the river levels into the night.
It's a nervous wait, no doubt. We're all watching the river heights further upstream to try and anticipate what's happening.
Throughout the afternoon, floodwaters rose further up the river in Coracai and in Talwadger Creek, south of Grafton. Some communities cut off near Coffs Harbour, with farmers bringing animals to safety.
Sometimes it's a bit hard to know whether the driveway is going to go under, so we'll just keep checking it.
Residents in surrounding flood-prone areas have been told to evacuate here to Evans Head, and local volunteers have come together to make them as comfortable as possible.
There's been over 150 people already through this evacuation centre, so we've set up some beds ready for some families to come and stay the night if they need to.
Residents hoping the rivers spare their homes for at least one more night. Sean Tarek Goodwin, ABC News.
Well, more than 300,000 properties are without power in the worst outage in a decade. Across both Queensland and New South Wales, there's been devastating coastal erosion, with the damaging surf expected to last till at least Monday. Laura Lavelle has more from Brisbane.
Ferocious winds ripping through the dead of night. Strong enough to tear the roof off this Gold Coast apartment block, police rushed to evacuate 15 terrified residents.
The entire roof structure's been compromised. We need to get you guys out of here.
Thousands spent an anxious, sleepless night as the deafening roar of tropical cyclone Alfred took over. The system howled for hours, rattling windows and testing infrastructure.
I reckon I could feel the building moving last night. We're on the 12th floor, which is not really high compared to some of these places, but it was enough to keep me awake, that's for sure.
We're all cooped up in one room, just looking out the window going, is this going to destroy the house or what?
As dawn finally arrived, residents emerged to survey the damage. Iconic Gold Coast beaches gutted. At nearby Ashmore, the Deshpande family awoke to destruction. A giant gum crashed through the middle of their home.
Basically, the living room is destroyed. Both the side walls, roof has come down. The skylight from the kitchen has gone, so there's flooding inside now.
A moment of terror while desperately searching for loved ones.
Like when I saw the roof fall, the first thing me and my older daughter, she's 18, we both screamed was, is there anyone in there? Is there anyone behind there?
Miraculously, no one was injured, but they'll likely be displaced for months.
We're just going to stay with some friends for the night and then we'll look for some accommodation.
Scott George is counting himself lucky. He watched as this massive tree uprooted and fortunately fell away from his home.
If it had come down the house, it would have destroyed it and, probably could have killed the family. So, very grateful it went the other way. But also glad it didn't hit anyone on the road.
The community's resilience has earned praise.
Many with no power, wind and rain,
and yet they did exactly what was needed.
At the worst of times, we are seeing once again the best of the Australian character.
Cyclone Alfred crossed Moreton Island in the early hours of the morning as a Category 1 system. Residents in its direct path had a long night.
The wind, it was just howling the whole time. Like the trees brushing, the bamboo behind me was hitting the windows.
The cyclone then ran out of steam and stalled over Bribie Island.
At 6 a.m. this morning was downgraded below tropical cyclone strength.
On the mainland, trees not suited to cyclonic weather were toppled. Residents at Redcliffe, north of Brisbane, grateful things were not worse.
We've had lots of time to prep, we've had lots of time to think about it.
I think we slept through it, pretty much, so it wasn't too bad, to be honest.
As the ex-tropical cyclone moves inland, heavy rain is the main concern. With catchments already swollen, there's a risk of sudden rises.
This flash flooding could pose a significant risk to life.
Trees have brought down power lines all across the southeast, creating the worst outage the state has seen in over a decade. Nearly 300,000 people were cut off. Authorities say restoring it remains a top priority, warning it could be some time before the network is revived. With some households now enduring power outages, the community is pulling together. This Good Samaritan taking food to an elderly neighbour.
Of course, there's no electricity, so we have to look after each other.
Others are ready for a deluge.
We've topped the bottom floor, sandbagged it, so hopefully nothing goes too bad. Tried to empty the pool, but we couldn't.
I've never been more prepared. Yeah. Pretty well prepared.
Prepared but hopeful they'll be spared this time. Laura Lavelle, ABC News, Brisbane.
Well, residents in the state's northeast are being urged to take warnings seriously as wet weather sets in. Victoria Pengilly is live for us tonight in Murwillumbah. Victoria, what are conditions like there?
Nikari, it's been raining on and off for the past few hours. The Tweed River is also flowing pretty rapidly, but it's still sitting just below minor flood levels. There is the sense that this town has dodged the worst of it, but authorities are concerned that if this rain continues into the evening and tomorrow, it could overwhelm already sodden catchments. Now, locals have piled into motels and evacuation centres, though some have decided to stay at their homes. For now, it's all just a big waiting game as this weather system continues to bear down. At 86 years old, George Butt is not going anywhere.
And I reckon it's just runoff.
Nearly everyone on his street evacuated to safety, but after 30 years in Murwillumbah, he's determined to see this flood through.
I think I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not trying to override anybody, but the circumstances to me are such that it's safe to stay here.
Other locals emerged after a restless night, fearing the worst. Some pleasantly surprised there was a chance for coffee or something a little stronger.
You're having a beer at 9 o'clock? You'll be here all day?
Till the money runs out.
The tiny inland town of Kyogle wasn't so lucky. The Richmond River burst its banks, water lapping at homes and businesses. Residents in low-lying areas were ordered to leave 2 days ago. As evacuation centres filled up, volunteers pitched in.
A nice hot meal, especially in this weather when it's cold and rainy, they really appreciate it.
They say cooking is love made visible.
Others coping without power dabbled in the creative arts.
When we unloaded it onto the bathroom counter and we just got creative with it because we didn't have any internet to look at reference photos or anything, so we just ended up with this.
In Murwillumbah, afternoon rain set nerves on edge again. Authorities urging people in flood-prone areas to move to higher ground. For most people in this region, this could be their third major flood in just 8 years. There is a sense, though, that whatever happens, people will band together and come out on the other side. Victoria Pengilly, ABC News, Murwillumbah.
Well, the long wait for Alfred's arrival is finally over, but the heaviest rain is still to come. ABC meteorologist Tom Saunders has the latest predictions.
Australia's east coast escaped the worst of Cyclone Alfred's winds as the system stalled and weakened just off the coast. But that slow pace still supports days of flooding rain. Over the past week to 9 a.m. Saturday, from 100 to 500 millimetres already soaking the mid-north coast, northern rivers and the Gold Coast, with a few pockets already exceeding half a metre. Dorrigo 754 millimetres and Meldrum 697 millimetres in the mid-north coast, while Lower Springbrook, west of the Gold Coast, has collected 575 millimetres. And now that Alfred is finally inland, even heavier rain is ahead during the coming days. And in another twist to Alfred's tail, the models now predict Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast could see the most intense falls on Sunday. That brings some hope of less severe flooding across the northern rivers. But a warning for southeast Queensland, 6-hour totals to 210 millimetres tomorrow and 24-hour totals to 400 millimetres. That's enough for dangerous flash flooding. And the deluge is now likely to linger near the coast into Monday, but also spread to the New South Wales northern slopes and plains, where up to 100 millimetres could fall by Tuesday. That's triggered a flood watch for areas west of the ranges, while more than 20 rivers flowing towards the coast are already under a flood warning tonight.